Are live. How you doing, Doc?
Okay.
How's retirement treating you?
It's treating me better. I had to get used to being retired. When you retire, who are you? I was Dr. Mazeroll before. I was a college professor. When you retire, I'm just somebody off the street. I'm just, a normal guy. So I had to find my
Well,
way
I think
around the
I
world.
I think there's also the thing of having a routine for so many
Yes.
years. You get
Yep.
up at a certain time.
Yep.
You at certain point you got to go somewhere and do all that stuff.
Yep.
So, um,
Yep.
and I imagine that's probably the hardest adjustment. But it
Oh
hasn't
yeah.
taken you too long to fill in your days, has it?
Well, but I don't have a schedule. So I tell you the truth. Last night I stayed up till 6:30 this morning.
Oh wow.
Just because, just putzing around.
What did you
So,
do?
it's nothing, you know. So I was trying to make travel plans for my trip and, I got caught up in trying to do all that stuff.
Hmm.
So I, it's, I don't have to go to bed at midnight. I don't have to get up at 6. I can get up whenever I want to.
Oh, okay. Let me let me do a little bit of housekeeping and acknowledge some people that are here with us before we
Okay.
really get deep in the weeds. What the hell's going on? Responding. What? I just updated this thing, so who knows what the in was. Mickham, thank you for being here. Audra Myers, that dropping in. Joy of Fish Keeping. Jose, thank you for being here. D1 Fish Guy, he's here from Puerto Rico. Uh, Asia, thank you for being here. Renee, let's see who else we got. Sam, Linda Worth, Dave from Aquarium Thoughts, Jeremy from Aquarium Domain. Hey, Jeremy, thanks for dropping in. Jeffro from Aquarius. And that's it for right now. I'm sure they're slowly going to start. Check your data. Okay, so it's me. What in the world is going on? No. Oh yeah. I named my internet no internet, and I was like, I'm reading it. It's like, what? I don't have internet, but that's actually the name of my. I was like, it got me. All right. Hopefully it picked up. It looks like I'm getting a little bit more, more of the bars on this thing, but it's because my wife's home. She's probably on the tablet, the phone, and the TVs and all of that
It's
stuff. I turned off
probably playing
my
games
phone.
or doing whatever. Yep.
Yeah, well, I always laugh at her because I said, "What are you doing?" She was, "Oh, I'm watching the show." Well, how much of the show are you watching? If you're really into, she's always on the tablet playing a game that she likes.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's like,
Yeah.
uh, we'll sit down and we'll watch. We'll be watching this, and then like every minute she'll be like, "What happened? Are we here with you watching this?" And but yeah, it is what it is, I guess.
Yep.
Louise from Elite Menagerie Habitats is here with us. She's going to be a guest on Monday. We're gonna be talking about um, how global events tend to affect the supply system for the hobby. So that's the conversation we're going to be having on Monday. But anyways, for those of you that are not aware, this is Dr. Anthony Mazeroll. Do you want to give us a little bit of your background for those who might be new and don't know who you are?
I was born a poor white boy. That's a line from a movie, The Jerk.
Dirt. Oh, the
The
Dirt.
Jerk.
Okay, I
Yeah.
thought that was Joe Dirt.
No. So I'm Anthony. Howdy, Kenny. Danikins is here. Um,
Hey, Kenny.
I was born and raised in the Imperial Valley, close to Mexicali. So Jorge and I both know that my kids call
That
it
region.
Hell Valley. That's what they would call it because it was so hot every time we'd go down there. Um, and so I'm a lifelong Californian. Now live in Oregon. After I retired, I was a college professor for 33 plus years, fish biologist. I taught fish biology, aquaculture, aquatic conservation. So a whole array of courses dealing with the aquatic environment. My research has taken me to the Middle East, the Red Sea, where I worked on clownfish way before Nemo was even a gleamer in Hollywood's eyes. Then changed over to work in the Amazon. And about almost 20 years ago, Carlos and I, who you had on last week or 2 weeks ago, decided to start a research center in Peru, which is the Amazon Research Center for Ornamental Fishes. It's the only research center in the world who deals only with ornamental fishes. That's all we're concerned. We're not concerned with food fish. Our strive is to understand the ecology, the conservation, and sustainable breeding practices for wild-caught ornamental fishes in Peru.
Now, in the valley, how long were you there for? Just until you started school?
I lived there until
you did
I
high
was
school in
21, and I went away to college.
Oh, okay.
So I went to community college there in the valley. My entire family, except one sister who lives up here in Oregon, they still live in the Imperial Valley. So
okay.
my mother was a lifelong resident. My grandmother came across the border in 1900 from Sinaloa, Mexico, and she met my grandfather, who was a farmer, a man from India. And a lot of Indians worked their way to the Imperial Valley on the railroad. So the oldest Sikh temple in the United States is actually in the Imperial Valley. So he was a Sikh.
So he's not related to the Coons, is he? Or the Saikon?
No. He was a Singh, but Singh was given to all the Sikhs when they entered into the U.S. It signifies that they were Sikh. But my grandfather's name was Inder Atwal. So his last name in India was actually Atwal.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Now, I know that the center is in Peru, but why in Peru? Why that country and not, say, Brazil, Colombia?
Well, when I first started working in the Amazon, I worked in Colombia. And I worked with a governmental research center called Sinchi. But the director of the research center was xenophobic. She didn't trust any foreigners. So it was very difficult for me to do work. So at that point, I emailed all the exporters in Iquitos, just asking if they would be willing to help me do my research. In other words, find me the fishermen to take me out so I can do my work. And the only one two responded, and the one that really responded was Stingray Aquarium, which is the largest exporter out of Iquitos. And at the time, Carlos was the general manager of Stingray Aquarium. So it was Carlos, who doesn't speak English, still doesn't speak English today, and a veterinarian who was doing his internship at Stingray Aquarium, Fernando, who spoke English. So Fernando and Carlos met me at the airport, and they actually helped me with my research to find the fishermen to take me out and to collect fish. And that at that point, Carlos and I became really good friends.
Oh, okay. What were you researching?
I was doing
what was it that you were trying to?
Population genetics on some of the fish there. Angelfish and discus primarily.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, interesting about, and this is something that I was talking to Carlos about, and this is something that you and I have talked about in other conversations, but discus in that section of the river were not native there, right? They were accidentally.
Yeah, they're native to the northern part Peru, the Putumayo River, which forms the border between Peru and Colombia and Ecuador. But they were brought in by a group of businessmen who were going to export fish. They brought in about 10,000 fish that they collected throughout Brazil, and they crash landed their float plane ran out of gas in Rio Nanai, and they just went ahead and dumped all their fish into the river. So
now at that point, was it for survival reasons, or they just
because they
decided
knew the fish were going to die. And
okay.
this was in like 1973. Iquitos was really underdeveloped. They, much smaller town than it is now, and so they just dumped them in the river. And the funny thing is, though, some of the fish they brought in were Lake Tefe red spotted greens. Probably one of the most beautiful non-heckle fish out there. And the Peruvian red spotted greens wholesale at a much higher price than the Tefe red spotted greens do, which doesn't make sense to me. The original population strain is like 50% cheaper than the Peruvian strain now.
Huh. Okay. Now, I know there's an issue with, I don't know if it's an issue, but why is it that it seems that they're harder to breed, the ones that are found from Rio Nene, than some of the other discus? Because I know people have tried breeding them, but they haven't really had a whole lot of success.
Dean Tidwell, Master Dean, he's bred them.
Okay,
he got some. One of the times when he went to Iquitos, him and Corey, he brought some back, and he was able to breed them. It takes a lot longer for wild caught fish to breed. It takes maybe up to 3 to 4 years for them to get into maturity to breed. Unlike, domestically raised discus, 9 months to a year, if you feed them right, they're going to be ready to breed. But wild caught fish take a much longer time to breed.
Oh, okay. And is that because maturity? It's slower? They mature a lot slower in the
slower
aquariums?
Maturity. Yeah, in the aquarium, we pump them full of food, and they eat and eat and eat as much as they can. That's what you want. You want maximum growth in your fish. In the wild, they're picking off anything they can get, and sometimes they're not getting much to eat during the day.
Now, the other thing that I was always curious about is when is the idea to create the research center? When does that seed gets planted in your mind?
That was actually all Carlos. Carlos, he came to me and he said, "Have you ever thought about starting up a research center?" I said, "Well, no, never have. That's not something I thought about." I said, "Well, we have an opportunity to buy some land if you want to build a research center." And so it was actually 5 of us at the time went in on it. I went in 80% of the cost, and the other 4 went in all at 5% each. So my share was 80, their share was 5% each for 20%, just because Peruvians aren't the richest people in the world. And this wasn't really expensive land. It was 2-3 acres of land that we bought at the time for $10,000, which was, in reality, pretty cheap at the time. But the land sat idle for a long time because, sure, we bought this land, but we don't have money to build anything.
Okay.
And what happened in the interim is that the homestead laws in Peru are such that if you show a use for land and build something on it, you can claim that as your land. Because and we didn't have full title of the land at the time. Some guy came in and built a house on our land, and he was able to take 1/3 of our land away from us. Yeah.
Wow.
So at that point, we built a brick wall all around our property, and that guy now is trying to sell it to us, trying to sell us back that land for $100,000.
What?
Yes,
Huh.
yes, that's what he wants. He wants $100,000 for that land,
Now,
and
does do they are they able to get a title for that or a deed
yeah.
for that piece of land? Oh, okay.
After a while, he was able to get title for the land, and we have title for the land. We're
Mhm.
all we you know because I am so worried as an American doing things correctly. We do everything to the letter of the law. We actually work with a lawyer in Peru who is the number one environmental lawyer in all of Peru. We didn't know that at the time when we contacted him,
Oh, okay.
but we actually we cross every T, dot every I to make sure that we do things properly. Most of the companies in Peru pay their employees on the books a minimum wage, because with that minimum wage, you don't have to pay for their insurance, you don't have to pay for their social security, so to speak. But then they pay them the rest of the money under the table, and that's very common. It's 1,300 soles a month they get paid, which is about $400. That's the going wage for people who work in industries, and then they give them an additional 500, 600 soles under the table. Well, we didn't want to do that because we would be the one to be made examples of. So we pay our employees the full costs. We also pay their insurance for their medical insurance. We
Okay.
pay their social security. We pay their retirement. We do everything by the books because we don't want to screw up. We've invested too much time and effort and money into this research center and now the public aquarium that we want to be successful.
Hmm. Now, I know, and talking from Carlos, I guess there's different wholesalers there in Iquitos, but what makes
Yep.
Iquitos such a pivotal area to be able to have to make it, I guess, a hub for wholesalers?
It's a hub for all of Peru. Even fish that are
Oh,
caught in southern Peru get shipped to Iquitos to be shipped out of the country to Lima, then out of the country. So yeah, it just became the central hub um, for all of Peru. It doesn't make sense because Lima is 2 hours south of us flying,
mm,
and there's areas, the Madres del Dios area, that gets the majority of all the nice quarries that we have in Peru. The gold lasers, white smani, red lasers, green lasers are all from southern Peru, but yet they get all shipped up to Iquitos, then back down to Lima. It's much easier for them to ship directly to Lima, but it's traditionally because Iquitos was the first to start the aquarium industry there.
so how long has the industry been there?
It's been there since the mid 70s.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So it had really, and it really hasn't been that long then, right? Since
No,
it's
no.
only like 50 some years.
Yep. Yep. That's really, it's, Southeast Asia has been doing this forever. Whereas, South America, Brazil's been a long time because that's where most of the
That's
fish
what I was going
came
to ask
out.
you.
Yeah.
Where did it start in South America?
It
Who was the
started
first
in,
country?
in Brazil, in
Okay.
Brazil. Even though nowadays the country that exports the most wild caught fish in Peru is actually Colombia.
Hmm. Okay.
They export more than all the rest of the countries almost put together.
Okay. Yeah, because I do. As a matter of fact, I know a lot of the fish that come into Mexicali to the fish stores down there. They're wholesaling from
Yeah,
Colombia.
yeah. And Colombia also, they will bring fish in from Venezuela, since Venezuela does not have an exportation at all.
Hmm.
And so the Altums, when they first were starting to be exported, they would all be exported through Colombia. And they all came in really bad because it takes 2 weeks for those fish to make it to Bogota. and they're not getting fed. They're not getting water changes. You know, I've imported in the past Ultims probably 10 times when I was living in California. Not a single Ultim survived. They all came with fin rot because they had ammonia burn. They all came in really, really bad shape. Now it's much differently because they're exporting them out of Brazil as well, because they're collecting them in the Rio Negro in Brazil as well too.
No, are the I guess, what do you call them? The farmers, the gentlemen that go, the fishermen. I guess that's really what they are, right? Now, are they conscious of the husbandry that is required for these fish, or are they just kind of throwing them all in a container and taking them to the?
They're getting more and more conscious of that. The villages that we work with, the fisheries associations that we work with, are very concerned because they get pennies on the dollar for a fish. Pistogramma bitinniata, which is a small, really small pistogramma that's found in the area. The fishermen get a penny a piece for them. That's it, a penny a piece. And that exporter is selling them for $2 or $3 each to the wholesalers. And so they, you know, because they know that they're not getting that good of a price, they want to bring in the best quality fish for that price. So they are becoming more and more concerned about it.
How many fishermen work the industry? Is that the primary source of income for that area of the country?
It's either that. Well, there's three major incomes there. Is the ornamental fish industry. Mm-hmm. There's the food fish industry, where they're going out and catching fish for food, and then the lumber industry. Those are the three major industries. And lumber, you know, lumber is legal there, but there is a lot of illegal lumbering going on because it's not really checked. Now what's happening in the areas are more and more illegal gold mines. Okay. And that's really destroying the area. In fact, there's just a scientific paper that came out about a month ago showing that the levels of mercury in the fish in the Iquitos area is really, really high now. And, you know, these are the fish that these people are eating. And when you eat mercury, you know, especially as a pregnant mother, your child's going to have developmental issues. It's not the best.
How do the fishermen down there react to the fact that we in the United States, well, in the rest of the world, covet these fish that are in their waterways? They must be thinking, what's going on with these people?
Well, you go into the fish markets, you know, the open air markets in the city, and you see big Oscars, big arowanas, pacu. You know, one of the fish that we see in the market that you would never think of is plecos, because they eat plecos there. And so, you know, you can buy a pleco for 10 cents in the market to eat, but yet that same pleco maybe $20 in the exporter. So yeah, it's
So are they eating the smaller plecos too?
No, they're eating the big plecos. Some of the big plecos look pretty nice. They're like Adonis plecos, which the babies are white polka dotted. But what happens is, as an adult, they're just a big black ugly pleco. So you know, they lose those dots as they mature. But you know, people eat those for sure.
I know discus, I guess, are also a delicacy down there, right?
You know, I have never heard of anybody eating discus.
Oh, okay.
I know supposedly Corey ate some discus when he was down there once, but I have never talked to anybody, any of the fishermen, any of the villagers who've ever eaten discus, because it's you bony. It's bony, and they'd rather eat, you know, piranha or something that, you know, going to have a little bit more meat on them.
Yeah. Yeah, that was I saw that in their video where they were frying that stuff up, and I'm like, oh, really? Yeah. That's thinking of all the fish that are out there. That would be the last one I would be looking at and going.
And they're it's not like they're very plentiful. You know, you have to go out and and spend time
Oh,
catching discus. Most of them are caught at night, so they're
okay.
flashlighting for these discus, and there's only maybe one or two near the surface. Most of the other discus are deep, so they're not the easiest to catch. We're starting to catch them with our big seines during the daytime.
Okay.
They're expanding into other areas where they normally had never been. And so we work very closely with a fisherman named Roberto. Uh, I've worked with him for 20 years. And so the last couple of years, he's been surprised where we've caught the discus. We've caught him in sandy beaches. Well, they're not supposed to be in sandy beaches. They're supposed to be, these are fish that like structure, not sandy beaches.
Oh, okay. Uh, what was I gonna? There was something I wanted to ask about. Oh, is there any concerns of overfishing that
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Yes, for a lot of the fish. There
Oh,
was a study probably 20 years ago that showed in areas where they normally fish, those fish are getting rarer and rarer. The one fish that started becoming very important in the hobby were chameleon loricarids.
okay.
Um, and they were, when they first found them, they were catching them right and left. Now it's taken them to go out for 2 or 3 days to catch the same amount as they would catch in one evening now, because they were overfished.
Are those a slower breeding kind of catfish?
Oh wow! Not necessarily, but what they were doing is they were catching all the adults.
Oh,
If you catch all the adults, you have very few left to repopulate. And now they're catching smaller and smaller fish because the adults are much harder to find.
now
And that's
as far
true
as
with a lot of fish.
you guys at the research center, are you guys doing these sort of outreach and trying to educate the
Yep,
fishermen as
yep,
to what's the best thing to collect and
yep,
how to continue the population?
yep. We're doing all that, and we work very closely with the government to educate them as well. Educate the fisheries department, the Ministry of Production, Ministry of Fisheries, to try to limit what is caught.
Hmm.
But the problem with that is they see that as trying to tell their people you can't make money anymore. And that's one of the things we're doing is, we're going into these villages to teach them to breed their own fish,
Oh, okay.
because the only time they can catch fish is during the dry season, when
Yeah.
the fish
Water
are,
levels are lower.
concentrated in the small areas. Well, and that may be 4 to 5 months out of the year. So
Mm.
what do they do the other 7 months? Well, they, go in the logging industry or something else that may be not the best for the environment. Well, if they learn how to breed their own fish, they have a ready-made supply of fish all year long. We're not telling them don't collect, because they are collecting fish, and that's fine. But now, since they have a income for all year long, they may not have to collect as many fish during the fishing season to try to get as high as income as possible.
Okay.
And but what's happening now is they're over collecting, and there's this business idea of supply and demand. So as they over collect, they bring in too many fish, the price goes down for their fish. So
Okay.
they're actually not making more money when they collect more fish. You know, the
Okay.
the, the exporters there aren't fish people. They're all business people.
Okay.
They're not in it for the fish, they're in it for the money.
Hmm.
There are a few that do are fish biologists that have gone into exporting, but they tend to be the really small ones, the small exporters.
Yeah. This is an interesting comment. The problem with using common names on fishes, on fishes,
Is fish? No, fishes is correct as well.
Oh, okay. All
More
right.
than one species is a fish is fishes.
Because not every region calls it exactly the same.
Exactly. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and that's why it becomes that's why the default is to go to the scientific name. But I'm with them. I'm with Johnny. It's hard for me to
Oh
sometimes
yeah.
read
It's hard for
those
me.
names.
There's hobbyists tend to know more scientific terms and scientific names than most fish biologists. We know the names of the fish we work with.
Yeah.
That's it. I don't. I've learned a lot working in Peru because we work with all the fish. But there are hobbyists that know a lot more than I do about the scientific names of fish that live in the area.
So who are the biggest? Which countries are the biggest importers out of Iquitos? Who's the biggest fish
Um,
consumer?
Primarily Asia right now. Japan
Oh,
is
okay.
uh, is importing lots of fish, and they tend to get the fish that are newly discovered. Like if there's
Mm,
a brand new Cory cat out there,
they
it's going to
want
go
it.
to Japan for $200 or $300 a specimen.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I've been with the fishermen who offered me, a brand new species of Cory. There was a fisherman in Colombia when I was working in Colombia who they called it the chicken Cory. Don't know why it was called the chicken Cory, but that's what they called it. And he had 10 of them, only 10. And I asked, okay, you interested in selling them? Because this is something new. Said, sure, but the Japanese have already said they'll buy them. I said, well, maybe I'll pay more. What do they want for them? 500 each.
I was like, nope.
No, no, not
I'll,
not
I'll go
not.
find some more.
This is $500 each. So
Mhm.
some of these fishermen when they find these rare species can make good money, but they're the exception to the rule. Most of them are selling
Okay.
like the Biteniata a penny each.
Mm.
Some of the tetras a penny each. That's it.
Now, how how regularly or how frequent do you guys discover new species out there?
Well, they're actually discovering more and more as they go into more and more areas.
Okay.
Uh, the big area that's being opened up, but not that much, is the area where we have the new red pencil fish, the Sanipa
Mm,
and Amaya red pencil fishes.
yeah.
Those areas are just opening up, but the villagers are not letting everybody going in and fish. They don't want their area fished out. So you either have to know somebody or have a relative live in the area for you to actually to be allowed to fish in those areas for those fish.
Now, are they doing that because they're business savvy and they know that if they control that, they'll make
It,
more
it,
money in
it,
the long run, or is it more of a religious
it's
or belief
it's
or
more of a they don't want their area to be invaded by all these you know foreigners,
okay?
city people. They're they like living isolated,
Hmm.
and
Yeah,
so
because
that's
I know there's a lot of still tribes out there that they
yeah,
don't.
yeah, 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 yeah.
All right. So the other question I've always been curious. I know it's a research center, but what exactly are you guys researching there at the research center?
Well, we research fish diseases,
Okay.
distribution of fishes. So this summer when I go back, I just got a grant to try to rediscover and see what the distribution of uh, one of the endangered killifish that are in the area. Um, it's collected occasionally for the pet trade, but not that often. And most of the area that it used to inhabit is now been bulldozed over for houses, for
Okay.
agriculture. So, we don't know if they're gone. We know they're not because Carlos went into an area and caught some about a month ago.
Oh,
but we
okay.
don't know if that's an isolated population or what the
Um,
distribution of that entire population. The last census was in 2014. So, you know, 11 years ago, and lots of things have happened in Iquitos in that 11 years. You know, there's a lot more development going on in Iquitos. Iquitos
is
is a
growing.
city of 700,000 people.
Oh, okay.
So
So
it's not a small little city anymore.
how big was it
It's
when you first got there? Just to kind of get an
probably
idea
about
of the growth.
500, but
Oh,
about
okay.
500,000. But what's happening is that people from the villages are moving into Iquitos thinking that there's um, more possibility for jobs,
Hmm.
you know, economic prosperity, and there's not. You know, Iquitos it only has so many industries that that employ so many people, and you can't absorb all those people.
So are you guys offering like uh, uh, as far as with the research that you guys are collecting, when you said talking about diseases and trying to, oh, I want to get back to the farming because I had a question on that. But are you guys holding classes there, or are you going out and trying to reach the community, or doing both, or
Well,
how is?
right now we're going out to these communities. One of the
Okay,
communities that we're going to is a community that is about 20 to 24 hours away on a boat. And so we go out there. We'll go this summer and and go there for about 10 days. A really small village. It's in the Rio Blanco area, right next to Brazil,
okay,
south of Iquitos. So it's a place that Carlos has gone before to teach them about better husbandry for their fish, disease management. So we want to go in and talk to them about building ponds to raise these fish.
okay. That's what I was going to ask you, is the ponds, because I know that the region there gets flooded because you see the images and houses are on
Yeah,
stilts.
yeah.
How are they creating ponds to avoid the water rise? Are they?
Well, some the villages that we're going into live up on top of the cliff, so to speak.
Oh,
The
okay,
water will rise up about 50 feet, maybe 60, 70 feet, and they're actually on top of the bank. So if it floods, it's going to have to be a humongous
so
rainy
we're talking
season.
Noah's Ark
Yeah, yeah,
kind of flooding.
yeah, yep.
Hmm,
And so
because
it's easy for them to maintain these ponds. You know, the ponds that we have, we're raising a pistogramma as a true as a concept to make sure that concept works, and these ponds are covered with shade cloth to prevent the insects from going into it. So we're not even feeding these ponds. They're living off the microorganisms that are just in the water, and out of two pairs, within 2 or 3 months, we have 100 pistogrammas in there.
oh, okay.
So it's not we're not feeding these fish. So we're very low intensive aquaculture. So it doesn't cost a
Now,
lot of money for them to do these things.
how many ponds do you guys have there at the research center?
We right now we have 5 ponds. Carlos has ponds. Carlos just lives right across the street from the
Oh,
research
okay,
center, so he has ponds at his house as well. But we also have a big reservoir that we use for the water for the aquarium, because the well water is really hard water, high in iron, hydrogen sulfide filled water. It's not the best water to use for our public aquarium. And so we actually raise some fish in the reservoir as well. Some
oh,
tetras
okay.
that we use for live foods for our exhibits.
So your ponds that you guys have there don't get filled by the water table. You guys have to physically fill the
No,
pond.
they will get filled by the water table, but what happens during the dry season, the water table recedes
Oh, okay,
big time.
okay.
So we have a system that brings in some of the rainwater or some of the water from the reservoir. When it overfills, it actually fills up our little ponds.
Okay. Now, obviously water changes is not something that happens in these ponds, or do you guys actually go out there and physically do water
No,
changes?
the water just flushes through. So we pretty much during the raising season have a constant turnover of water throughout because
Oh, okay.
it's not solid side, so the water actually percolates out through the banks out of the
Mm,
ponds.
okay. They're not lined then. You guys don't have lined
No,
ponds.
no, no lining. No, no. That's that's very expensive to get pond liners there.
Yeah, because I'm kind of curious because I just recently got to go to Florida and I was actually got to go
Yep.
see a fish farm. And
Hmm.
one of the things, that whole having to feed fish, I've kind of gotten the experience from me traveling and having nobody feed my tanks,
Yep.
that I've gotten to the point where I can leave confidently and not have to worry
Hmm.
about feeding these guys because they're going to be fine.
That's
Um,
right.
so far, the longest I've been able to do it is 2 weeks because that's the longest I've been gone.
Hmm.
Um, and I've come back and everything's fine.
Yep.
I think one of the things that I'm finding out is that we actually tend to overfeed our fish
Hmm.
way too
Hmm.
much,
Yep.
extremely. I mean,
Yep.
like a lot.
Yep. Yep. And
And
you.
the whole thing is that, like you were saying, there's so many microorganisms in these systems.
Mhm.
Just because we don't see them doesn't mean there isn't food in there.
That's right. Yep. 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 That's
Now,
exactly what happens.
does that same concept? Because that's the one thing I've always wondered. I haven't been able to test it because I don't have bigger fish. All my
Yep.
fish are smaller fish. Could you still
Hmm.
pull off the same thing with bigger fish, like say
Uh,
Oscars, the bigger cichlids?
Probably not. They would,
Okay.
if there's any small fish in there, they would eat them for sure. Um, but yeah, the smaller fish, there's no problems walking away for a week or so. But the bigger fish, that's yeah, you probably won't be able to get away with it that for that
Yeah.
long.
And the other thing I haven't done is I haven't done it where in a tank that I don't have. Do you? I mean, I'm wondering, can you do the same thing like in a bare bottom tank, or I can pull it off because I actually have
Yeah,
substrates and
no,
you
I
got
don't
to
think a bare
have.
bottom tank would be able to. I mean, there's no substrate, so there's no places for these small macroorganisms to hide. They may be if you have matin filters, maybe in the matin filter, but
Okay.
it's not like these organisms love mold, and that's what you're going to find in your gravel bed or your sand bed
Mhm.
is lots of mold.
Yeah. So Mom is not as evil as some people make it out to be.
Yeah, yeah, no. It may look bad, but
Yeah.
mold. Yeah, that's where you're gonna have a lot of good little things in your mold. If
Yeah.
you have a bare bottom tank, yeah, get rid of that mold. But you have gravel sand bed, uh, you know, mold is good.
Um. Shit. There was something else. Oh, the other thing and then is when it comes to filtration. I've been over the course of me coming back into the hobby and learning about filtration. One of the biggest things that I've always been a big proponent is having good biological filtration, because
Yeah,
that seems
yeah,
to me like that's, if you don't have biological filtration, you really don't have the filtration necessary. I'm
yeah.
assuming those ponds, they don't have any mechanized
No,
filtration,
no.
no chemical filtration. It is completely
But
all biological.
you have to remember when pHs get below 7,
Hmm.
ammonia becomes detoxified.
Hmm.
So you don't have to worry about ammonia per se. It's going to be converted into a non-lethal form.
Okay. Yeah,
It's
because
only
that's
in
what.
it's only in pHs above 7 up to about 8.8 that you have to worry about ammonia per se.
And that's because the ponds there have all the vegetation that falls into
Yeah,
them, and it
yeah.
allows the
Oh yeah.
pH to lower.
Our pH in our ponds get down to about 3.
Hmm.
At times.
So it's
Yep.
acid.
Oh yeah, it's acid,
Can you
and
feel it
with
tingle your skin when you put your hand in there?
no, no, and there's no. I mean, TDS maybe down to 20.
Mm.
you know, our conductivity. I don't do GH and KH in science. We don't worry about that. We just measure hardness in microsiemens. Um, and microsiemens, if you have hard water at home, you may have 300, 400 microsiemens of hardness in your water.
Okay.
In Peru, in most of the rivers there, except the Amazon itself, you get maybe 20, 30 microsiemens of hardness, which is nothing. That means electricity is not being conducted through that water very easily.
Now, how much is the water turnover naturally in the ponds? Because I know you said it seeps through the sides, and you have the
Mm-hmm.
water table refilling them. Is it something that you would say that the whole water gets changed out in a whole day, or is it something that takes several
It's
days? Or
probably a couple of days, 3 or 4 days, because when we build a pond, it takes probably 3 or 4 days for that pond to fill up.
okay,
And that's because the water table is right there, so it's coming to the surface. So during the rainy season, it's probably every day it's being
yeah,
changed over. But during the dry season, it may be once a week, once every 2 weeks in the dry season that it's changing over.
yeah, and you say it's almost like 100%. Then that it probably switches
Yeah,
out.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, because I know the big argument in the hobby is the whole water change thing,
yeah,
whether you do it or you don't do it.
yeah.
Um, I've
Well,
actually tried pushing it as far as I could, but you got to do a water change eventually. It's not. I haven't. I haven't long term. I really haven't had success with it. I've had where eventually it gets to a point where the tank just crashes.
because
So
we don't have all the organisms, we don't have the plant material, we don't have the fungi that are in the water that will naturally use up all these the stuff in the water, the phosphates, the nitrates, anything in the water that's going to be utilized as a nutrient in the wild is not going to be utilized as a nutrient in our tanks because we don't have all the stuff in our tanks.
yeah.
Our tanks are very sterile per se compared to the environment that most of these fish are found in.
Now, is there? I know you said I guess you guys are the only ornamental research center. So there's no other centers in any other countries that do similar
No,
work that you guys do.
no, there was one in India.
Oh, okay.
um, but I think it was a hobbyist who called himself a research center because I've emailed them in the past and never received any messages in response to them.
Oh, okay.
So Peru has a lot of research centers. EOP is the governmental research center just right down the road from us. They do some ornamental fishes, not the ecology or conservation work that we're doing, but their main focus is food fishes. That's
Okay.
their main focus. How to raise more fish to feed the people.
Are there any other conservation groups in the area that are trying to teach the fishermen how to be sustainable? For
No, we're the only ones who are doing that. Yeah, there's a lot of
oh,
different conservation groups, some that deal with fish, but not to the extent that we do.
oh, okay.
Yeah.
Now I know that at the research center, one of the big programs that you guys have is having internship for
Yes.
students.
Yes.
Now, is that only open to students in the United States, or is it open to students
Yeah.
worldwide?
Worldwide. I mean, um, we've had students that were from the UK that were vet students. We have Peruvian students who do internships at the research center, primarily American students, just because they,
Yeah.
it's a lot of them have been my students at the university. But yeah, it's open to anybody and non-students alike, old people. You could do what all we ask for is you're able to give us a certain amount of time, because we're going to invest in training you, and we don't want you to leave right after we train you. It's just not, we're not there as a vacation spot.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's not a
Yeah.
vacation spot.
No, it's not a
not an
vacation spot.
Airbnb.
No. Yeah, we do have dormitories so all the interns have a place to stay. We feed you, we house you. You give us your blood, sweat, and tears, and we'll try to feed you some good food.
Do you guys have tours of people coming in and trying to check out the
Oh
facility?
yeah, I mean we've had tours of biologists come in, look at the place to see if they want to do the research there. Most of our tours now are for the aquarium.
Okay.
We have, in the past, we've been open about 2 years now. We've had over 20,000 tourists come through the aquarium, which is pretty good. Most of those, about 10,000, are school children. We have a environmental program that we do for the elementary schools in Iquitos to teach them, environmental consciousness, conservation. We rely on 2 books that my wife has written that teach them stories about, different aspects of the aquatic environment.
Now, Jose, let me get this question out of the way. I don't know if it's a joke or if it's serious, but Jeremy wants to know if you've stayed at Hotel Rupa Rupa.
Rupa Rupa. I've never heard of a Hotel Rupa Rupa.
The other thing here is we have a young man named Jacob, and obviously he says he's in school. What are the it's on the website, but if you could just tell us really quick, is there a cost to the internship? What are the requirements for the internship?
The requirements is that you're willing to give us your time. You fly yourself down to Peru. We house you and feed you. You don't even have to know about fish per se. We will allow you, your job will be geared towards your experience.
Okay.
One thing, as an aside, one thing I've been trying to do is set up a collecting trip for people. Come down for a week, 10 days. We go out and collect. We're able to collect a certain amount of fish because we have the aquarium. So we go out and collect fish. Then people can we'll have those fish shipped back to people if they know anybody or if they have a U.S. Fish and Wildlife import permit.
Okay. Let me make sure that Jacob has got a. I don't know why it does this on my phone, but anyways, if somebody could do me a favor and drop the link for the website for the research center, because if somebody's interested in pursuing an internship, it's at the website that they have to go and apply, correct?
Yes. And they can also email me as well. But my email is on the website. If they go into, employees or whatever, our team, it's under our team, but it's AMAZE@AmazonResearchCenter.org. So the website is www.amazonresearchcenter.org.
Okay. He put his email there.
Yeah.
Jacob, I'll send you the link. If somebody doesn't drop it for me, I'll make sure that you get that.
I can copy and paste his email. So
yeah,
I can send him a.
And now, is there a minimum amount of time that they're supposed to be commit to, or
we like a minimum of 3 weeks, just because it gives them a chance to get their feet wet, and during that time we take you to the Manatee Rescue Center. We take you to other places to see what's going on in the world of conservation there throughout the waters of the Amazon.
Okay, there you go. He put it up there himself. He found it. Got it. Thank you. But yeah, no, I think that's, as a student and somebody that's interested in the hobby, that's got to be a great opportunity to be able to go experience that. I wish I could get that much time off of work to be able to do it, honestly. That and get permission from the wife. That's
That's
gonna be
right.
even harder.
That's
I
right.
could probably get the time off work. It's probably the permission
Well,
from the spouse that's a little bit more
get it.
challenging.
Get a group of 5 people to do a collecting trip.
Oh, okay.
Roberto has offered to take us on his big canoe boat
Oh, okay.
on the river for 4 or 5 days
Hmm.
to go collecting. So we won't just be in Iquitos. We'll be going down the river.
Oh,
Now,
okay. They're all
this
day
is
trips, or you camp out
no.
out on
This
site.
this would be a 4-day trip.
Okay.
So
So
this would
you're
be camping in the rainforest, sleeping in a canopy on the boat. This is not margarita tours. You're not going to be getting first class food. We'll be catching our own food. We'll be just you smoke cigars so the mosquitoes don't get you. Things of that sort. So yeah, 5 people is really the max that we could
oh,
take, and we really don't make any money off of it. It's just the opportunity for people to come down and see the environment.
yeah. The other thing I wanted to ask you, because I think this is important, is
Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
am I back?
No,
Nope.
you're back. You're back now.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. How does the research center create revenue to keep it going?
Well, we primarily run off of donations. We are a 501c nonprofit in the U.S., meaning you can. Well, bud is illegal in Peru, so I would not advise you to bring your own bud. If I think he's saying what he's saying,
Oh,
but yeah, we run off um, donations. We are getting some income from the aquarium, but um, it's not meeting our outflow right now. We're hoping that someday it becomes a reliable income for the aquarium, so my wife and I won't have to put in our money. We're the biggest donors to the aquarium, to the research center, um, and we made a commitment a long time ago you know that if we were going to do this, that we would be willing to commit to helping run the place.
yeah.
So
Because
we have all sorts of fundraisers right now. This spring, we're going to be having an adopt a tank where you pay a certain amount of money every month, and you get a sign on the aquarium saying that this tank is been adopted by so and so. And so we have a lot of ways to try to get income for us.
yeah, because I know when I first met you and we were talking, I made the mistake of assuming that you guys were collecting and selling the wholesales, but
No,
you guys
no.
don't.
No, we don't make money at all from anything we breed. Those are either put into the aquarium or we just keep them. Yeah, at least twice a week I get emails from people wanting to know if I have a price list of the fish that we produce.
Yeah,
We don't do that. I mean, we would lose our nonprofit status there in Peru. We are a nonprofit in Peru as well. And so as part of that, we can't sell. We don't do that. And in fact, we are the receiving center for the Peruvian government when they get illegal exportations. There's a funny thing though about UFOs. The red pencil fish, the original red pencil fish, is pretty much gone now. And what happened in the area that the red pencil fish, the original red pencil fish, is found in, they were attacked by UFOs, by the face peelers. And you go to YouTube, you look up UFOs in Peru, you'll find 2 or 3 specials on YouTube about the UFO, the aliens that were found in the area. And what it was the gold miners coming in and scaring the people to try to get them to get out of the land so they could go gold mine, because the Peruvians are very superstitious. They believe in all these things. They believe in the kukui. They believe in the chupacabra. The sirens are going to get you if you go out in the water at night. So it's something that they're very susceptible to, that kind of stuff.
Now, I don't know if in the waterways there in the surrounding areas, but do you guys have like piranhas, or is that only in the Amazon?
No. Yeah, we have piranhas all over the place.
Movies and all these myths about piranhas. When you go out collecting, is that ever a concern, or do they just don't mess with people at all?
I don't think it'll show up, but
okay.
So you can see kind of like a pad on this finger. That actually is a piranha bite.
Okay.
But I got bit at an elementary school in Texas when I was a professor in Texas. I was giving a demonstration to an elementary school in Texas, and that's the only piranha bite I've had. We swim with piranhas all the time when we collect fish. We pick them out of the water and throw them back in the water. So piranhas aren't a problem per se.
Yeah,
the only time they become a problem is when they become isolated in these pools and they become cannibalistic more than they will attack a human. Now, if you're bleeding in the water, if you're injured, you drowned by an accident, the piranhas will come eat you because they're more scavengers than anything. They won't really attack a fish just to attack it. They're going to attack an injured or dead fish.
Yeah, because I remember when I was going to talk to Ivan Mikolji, I went back and watched some of his videos. And he had gone into, I guess, a pond, because after in the dry season, he did not realize it was full of piranhas, but he didn't, he found out after the fact, and he got scared after the fact, but not while he was in there.
People are more concerned with stingrays than they are piranhas.
Oh, okay.
In the small streams, they'll be walking along and you'll step on a stingray and you get hammered by the stinger. And because it's so humid there, that will never heal. It just, it gets worse and worse.
So will people lose limbs from a stingray?
No, they won't lose limbs, but they'll have these big, huge scars on their legs where they got hit by a piranha because it takes so long to heal. The only vaccination you need to travel to Peru is yellow fever. But you also need anti-malaria medicine, which you take a pill every day. So it's not that bad.
Okay, so I already asked that. I got a bunch of questions that I was working on, and I've kind of been going through them. Because I know we've talked on multiple times, but I've never really had an opportunity to sit down and actually ask you questions pertaining to that. I know one of the things that always fascinated me, because I had, and I think like a lot of us, the misconception that the waterways in Peru are full of plants. And I remember the very first thing, that was one of the first questions I ever asked you, and you laughed. And what was your response to that?
Well, we all think, we look at a biotype aquarium, you got the Amazon sword plants, you have all these plants in the waters. Most regions of...
Oh, shit, it's freezing again. Let me see. Is it me or... I don't know if I froze. I didn't get the little message that usually tells me that it's frozen, so I don't know. Or maybe it's Doc. Is it Doc or me? I need somebody to there none probably. Oh yeah, that's Craig. Hey Craig, I don't know what's going on. I don't know if Doc's frozen or I am.
Well, now we're back. Now we're back.
Okay. Okay, was that your end this time?
I don't have no idea. It said lost connection, so I'm not sure.
Yeah, it might have been on your. We didn't hear anything at all what you said when.
Okay, so what was the question again? I forgot the question.
What kind of plants do you find in the waterways down there?
The plants that you find there are floating grasses primarily. You find azolla a lot, but again, that's floating plants. When you think about all these aquarium plants that are found that are Amazonian plants, they're primarily found in the Pantanal region of Brazil, in the flooded plains. So half the year they're out of the water, so they can grow out of the water. So that's you just don't find plants in the water. You find the only plants you find if they're growing are plants that are in the flooded forest. The trees there, will still grow while they're underwater. But you find a lot of wood, a lot of leaves. So typical black water streams is what you find in a lot of places there.
So it's a lot of tannin water down there in that section of the river.
Except the Amazon itself, the Amazon River itself is a white water environment. Lot of silt, high pH, high conductivity. Hardness is much higher in the Amazon itself.
Yeah. Well, the other thing I wanted to ask you is, what is the ultimate goal of the research center? I mean, obviously you guys started up, but what are you really trying to accomplish?
We want to be an education center. Center, environmental education center for the kids, education resource for the fishermen to allow them to have a better income, educate people on what is happening in the environment, and ultimately try to save the fish that are there from extinction.
Have you contemplated when you're going to retire from that too, or is?
Well, we've told Carlos and everybody that in 5 years we will step back from the research center. We have a board of directors. We'll get off the board of directors, and we're hoping that the board of directors will be entirely run by Peruvians.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
that's the ultimate goal.
Yeah, that we'll still be involved per se, but we'll try to be less hands-on than we are right now.
Okay.
When we go, my wife and I both work there.
Yeah.
My wife works in the gift shop. We'll sell tickets. I will do tours in English for the English-speaking tourists that come in, and maintain the fish in the fish rooms and things. So, I don't go there for vacation, not like I used to, which was really vacation before we had the research center up and going. But yeah, we go there and we do work.
Yeah. Well, especially because, like you said, it's a research center. So you guys are actually doing all the stuff that is required. The other thing
and when we work, it's one less person we have to hire.
Oh, okay.
Which is good.
Got that one. Now, what are some of the things that, obviously, besides doing some of the research, does the center do anything to contribute back to the community?
Oh, yeah.
And how involved are you guys with the community?
We're involved. We're in a little village of about 500 people called 31 de Mayo, 31st of May. All these little villages are named after the date they were established. And so all our employees live in that village. Every year we do a Christmas party for the kids in the village where every kid gets a gift. We sponsored the Miss 31 de Mayo contest. Every little village has their Miss America type pageant. We do that. We for Mother's Day, we give all the mothers a gift. For the anniversary, which is 31st of May, we actually provide money for their big celebration as well. So, we try to be good neighbors. I don't want them to look at my wife and I as these ugly Americans that come in and try to tell them what they should do and what they shouldn't do. No, we're guests in their country. That's the way my wife and I feel, that we're guests. We're privileged to be able to go there and have the people accept us as one of their own, because we've been going so long that they all know us in this little village. All the kids know us, and we're just it's a good feeling to know that you're not looked at as a foreigner anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. Are you guys doing any outreach with the schools, the
Oh yeah,
local
yeah.
schools there, the
Oh yeah.
elementary schools and stuff like
Oh
that?
yeah, yeah, yes, for sure. Yeah. Right after COVID, we would actually go into the schools and have them read the book that my wife has written. The kids that come out for their school trips, most of them come for free, and they all get a copy of the book. We sometimes do little skits for them to teach them environmental education. They get, a walk through the aquarium, and they're taught all the fish. You would think that the people there would know the fish, but they probably know 5 fish that are found in their waterways, because those are the fish that they're going to be eating. They don't know any of the other fish that are in the water unless their parents work in the aquarium industry.
Yeah, that's one of the things that's funny, because people would assume people in South America, the aquarium hobby is big.
Yeah,
But I
yeah,
always tell people, and I remember growing up, for us, keeping an aquarium was more of a privilege thing. It wasn't,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
and I'm assuming because of the socioeconomics down there, it's probably the same thing. It's not
yeah,
something that,
yeah,
people are
yeah,
are more concerned about other things than keeping an
yeah.
aquarium.
They're worried about feeding themselves,
Hmm.
and there are 3 or 4 fish stores in town. And when you go into those fish stores, you see tiger barbs, you see guppies, and you see bettas. Very seldom do you see any fish that are found in the Amazon.
Yeah. I'm happy to see Art Fish Room. I don't know if you're aware of him. He's from South Africa, but he
Mm.
has this weekly podcast that he does, really really good. Art, I sent you a message on Instagram. I don't know if you've seen it yet or not. I'm sorry, it was 2 o'clock in the morning when I sent it, because after I sent it it was still evening for me, and I was curious. I said, I wonder what time it's in South Africa right now, and it's at 2 a.m. I was like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have sent it at that time, but I didn't know the time difference. Now I do. But
I'll
um,
have to
I've
I'll have to subscribe to his channel then.
I've been loving. He does this like a quick 10 to 15 minute little
Mhm.
podcast, but it's really good. Uh, I I stumbled on his channel by accident, and I've been a follower ever since. And I really love what he's doing. He's a genuine podcast, because he doesn't have any video. It's all
Okay.
audio. Anytime I'm busy in here doing something, I'll just put the playlist and I'll run it through. So yeah, it's 6:11. So yeah, it's I know it's what was it, like 8 or 9 hour difference or something like that from what I looked at. But I apologize for that early morning message. Uh, yeah. So going back to the center, um, that was okay. Oh, as far as no, this is what I want to know. Of all the outreach you guys have been doing, have any of these kids become of age where they've come back to try to work at the center?
Not yet. Since we've been doing outreach for about 3 years.
Okay.
Um, and most of them are elementary school kids.
Okay.
But we do,
Have any of
we
them
have.
showed interest in saying, "Hey, I want to,"
Oh yeah, 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 yeah. We've had some kids that are really gung ho. Um, the most profound thing happened this past summer. Our
Okay.
summer. It's not their summer. It's their winter, and they're still going through school. I built a diorama of Belém, which is the local village. Some people call it the slums that are
Mhm.
along the Itaya River. And this place is just trashed out. Um, you know, Traditionally, everything that was wrapped came in banana leaves, and
Mhm.
that was their plastic. So they would just throw it in the water. Well, they still have that same mindset with their plastic bags and their styrofoam and their bottles and stuff. And so I built a diorama of the village itself, showing all the trash in the water and everything. And one little girl was looking at it, and she started to cry, and which was really profound to me. She was crying because she said, this is how it is. We need to stop doing this. And this was a 7, 8 year old little kid, and that was really profound. It made me feel, I don't want to say proud, but it made me realize that our message is getting across to some of them. Some of the kids come and just have fun, but some kids, really look at it and say, we need to change. We need to change what we're doing to our environment.
Do you guys go to any of the secondaries or high schools?
Yep, we have a few that come. We have Boy Scouts come, Girl Scouts come, church groups have come. So our main outreach is to the elementary schools, because they're the kids. How do you change the society is changing the kids.
Yeah.
By the time they get into high school, they're already set in their ways. But yes, we do some outreach to some of the older kids as well.
Is there any local universities there in Iquitos, or
yes,
they got to
there's a couple. We work very closely with the National University of Peru in Iquitos, UNAP. We have students who do their research at the research center.
Okay.
When I go, I normally give a seminar, lecture 2 or 3 times to both the undergraduate and the graduate programs. They have a graduate program in aquaculture and fisheries. So there we get a lot of their students coming to do internships at the research center.
Now, are you doing those in Spanish, or are you doing them in English?
In Espanol, senor.
All right. So
yeah, I couldn't believe the first time I did it in Spanish. It was like I did this whole 2-hour lecture in Spanish. Very simple Spanish.
Yeah.
But that's all I needed. Yeah.
Yeah.
My Spanish, when I come back to the States, is terrible because I don't speak it. But when I get there, you have to adapt. You have to.
Yeah.
Learn,
well, you just get so accustomed to hearing it every day that it's that immersion.
And with Carlos not speaking English, we have to speak Spanish.
I get the feeling he understands it. He's just making you work.
He understands some, but not that well. His son speaks English. His son works at the research center, and he speaks English. So, but yeah, Carlos, the best thing that happened to Carlos was 3 years ago, we flew him to Thailand. I was giving a talk in Thailand about the research center and sustainable breeding practices, and we flew Carlos out. And this was an international conference, people from India, all over Southeast Asia, South America, Africa, Europe. And he was amazed that the entire conference was in English. Because in South America, especially in Peru, no matter what conference you go to, it's going to be in Spanish.
Yeah, okay.
And so he realized, well, me learning English is probably very important. But he says he's too old to learn now. So
no, you're never too old.
I know. Yes, he's just too lazy.
Tell him to get on Duolingo.
Yeah, he had Duolingo. Yeah.
I'm surprised my grandkids are. I have one of them. He's learning Russian off of Duolingo.
Really?
I was like, and I said, why Russian? He goes, I don't know. I just like, he thought it would be cool. And my daughter, she's been learning French, Japanese, and it's like, well, I guess these apps are really working.
Well, my wife learned Spanish that way. Her pronunciation isn't the best, but she understands a lot more. And that was my problem. I understand so much more than I can speak because I was raised hearing Spanish with my mother and my grandmother, because my grandmother didn't speak English at all. So
we're I would say approximately the same generation where it was more it was embedded on us to assimilate instead of keep so I've had to deprogram from all of that. That's why my name changed. For the longest time, people knew me as George because it was one of those things where I couldn't be Jorge. It was kind of like and I had to learn, not that I had to learn Spanish, but I had to learn proper Spanish
Yeah.
as an adult.
Yeah.
Because I would speak the street Spanish, the what do they
The
call it?
gutter Spanish.
Spanglish.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Spanglish, of course. Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Spanglish. That's all I really spoke. And it wasn't until I started having to do public presentations and I had to speak in Spanish. It was quite an eye opener and embarrassing that I couldn't communicate.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I was like, this can't be possible. And that's
Yeah.
when I took learning Spanish a lot more serious, and
Mhm.
really started trying to improve my vocabulary because I was so limited.
Yeah.
And then living on the border region of Mexico, I went all my life assuming that the words that I was saying in Spanish, all they were little English words pronounced in
Yeah.
Spanish.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that was quite an eye opener for me. And I was like, oh, it's not parques, it's estacionamiento. It's not soda, it's refresco. Those kind of things. And you know, at the time, and it was a bit of embarrassment because I am telling, oh yeah, I can do a presentation to an all Spanish audience, and they're kind of looking at me like, what are you talking about? And that's the moment of realization that I was like, yeah, I need to learn Spanish. I mean, I need to learn proper Spanish.
Yeah. The funny thing though, in the research center and certain people in Iquitos, they're starting to use Mexican curse words because they've learned them from me. Yes. Yeah. You know, I know them all because I heard them from my mother, you know, and it was okay for us to say those when we were growing up because we didn't know what they meant. I know what they mean now, but it's part of my vocabulary to say, you know, pinche desgraciado. You know, they all say that now.
Yeah, but that to me was something that's always stuck with me, and it's kind of like, yeah, why am I having to be one thing? You know, I can be two, and that's just as American as, you know, speaking only English. And it's amazing once my perspective changed on that, the opportunities that really come from being able to speak two languages is invaluable. Being able to communicate, you know, is very important, and it really plays a big factor. I mean, I try to instill that in my grandkids now. Is like, don't be afraid, don't be ashamed of speaking Spanish.
Yeah,
that's a tool that's going to be very useful when you get older.
Yeah, especially if they stay there in that area.
Well, even if you don't, it doesn't matter where you go. You're, you know, second. What is it? Spanish, the second most spoken language after English. So you know, it's no, Hindu because the population's so big. But it's one of those most spoken.
Yep.
You can go most parts of the world and get by speaking English or Spanish.
You know what? I have a funny story. When I was working in the Middle East, I did my PhD research in Israel, in the Red Sea. And, you know, I learned some Hebrew phrases. I learned them there, so everybody thought I spoke Hebrew fluently, but I didn't. But the second most common language I found there was Spanish. Mm. So if someone was trying to speak to me in Hebrew and we couldn't communicate, I would ask them, do you speak Spanish? And I could communicate with them in Spanish. So, you know, it was of all the places that you would expect to speak Spanish, it was in Israel.
Yeah, I've been learning with time that, you can go, you're probably better off if you're going to travel in Europe to know Spanish than English. Because Spain is such a big influence in the European countries that you're going to find a lot of people that will understand Spanish.
And Italian is so close to Spanish as well.
Yeah, you know, so Portuguese.
Portuguese.
I can understand, especially if it's a slower pace. I can pick up on every other word that's spoken either in Portuguese or Italian enough to understand what I'm being asked.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So, let's see. Well, I think we kind of covered that. I was going to ask you, how does the community benefit from the center being there? But we've kind of touched on that little bit here and there. Yeah, we've kind of gone through all the questions that I have always had and hadn't had really an opportunity to sit down and talk to you about. Um, the other thing I'm kind of curious is your fish room up, or you're no longer setting up a fish room?
No, I'm setting it up. Yeah, it's it. This is my only regret about getting old is that I only can work for like 3 or 4 hours in the daytime and then I'm dead. It's not like before I could work all day long and so it's probably a month. Within a month, it'll be completely set up. It's just taken me longer to build the tanks that I built. I built two big tanks out of plywood, fiberglass them and everything. And I brought some glass from California that I had my big corner tank.
Oh, okay.
And so I cut it in half, but after I cut it and looked at it, it was all scratched and everything. So I just talked to my wife, I'm going to buy 2 panels of glass. Okay. And she was okay with that because she wants these tanks to look as good as possible too.
So where are you setting these up in your garage, or you got an
outbuilding?
No,
we bought this house and we had to do some remodeling in the house. So part of that remodel was building me a fish room.
Oh, wow.
So it's just right to the right of my office. You just walk into the fish room there. And so, yeah, it's 2 separate rooms. The bigger room be more of a gallery room where there'll be some, biotope type tanks. And the smaller room, which is 10 by 10, if I want to do any breeding, I'll do the breeding in the smaller room.
Yeah. Now, I'm trying to type and talk at the same time. That's not going to work out very well for me.
It doesn't work with me either.
Yeah, I'm looking at Steven. I wanted to acknowledge Steven here. I admire Steven so much because he is really good at keeping up with the chat and not losing focus. So I tried to do that, but I fumbled. I don't complete one or the other. I always mess
my
it
mind
all up.
Doesn't multitask very well anymore.
I'm finding the older I get, the harder that becomes.
Yep. You're typing and you're supposed to be talking to somebody, and I just stop and just keep on typing without speaking to anybody. Yeah.
I was going to ask you, in Oregon, do you guys have the same issue with the water softness as Washington does, or are you guys a little bit more neutral water?
It depends on what side of the river you're at.
Oh, okay.
On my side of the Willamette River, we have really soft water here, which is fine with me because most of the fish I keep are soft water fish.
That's what I was going to ask you.
On the other side, like where Kenny from what's Kenny's YouTube channel? Danikins.
Aquatics.
Yeah, in Milwaukee, where he's at, on the other side of the river, they have really hard water. So it really depends upon what watershed you're in. I'm lucky here. I don't have to use an RO unit. I could to get pure water, but we have pretty soft water here. So I don't have to do anything to my water for my soft water fish. Now, I do like some African cichlids. So when I set up my little African cichlid tanks, I will have to put in some riff salts in there to bring up the hardness and the pH and everything.
Oh, the other thing I wanted to ask you about the research center before I forget. Now that the research center has been up and running for a bit, have you guys had people reach out to you about potentially, picking your brain on how to set up other research centers in other places of the country, or are you haven't seen that interest from other people?
I haven't seen that interest. Primarily, I will say we're still relatively unknown.
Okay.
We're still trying to get our name out there for people, for, researchers to do research. We do have one person who comes every summer to do his research. That's Dr. Eric Thomas, who works on, corridor cell poisoning. And he comes every summer. He's been coming every summer to do his research there. And we have some local people. We've had some people from Colombia come and do some work, a few Brazilians come and do some work, but it's mostly people that we know that are fish biologists that come to do research at the research center.
Now, do all quarries do that where
No,
they'll release
it's
toxins and
no. He says it's primarily the yellow finned cories. So if there's a little bit of yellow on their anal fins, not their anal fins, their pectoral fins,
yeah,
they are the ones that will be releasing the the,
the
the
toxins?
toxins. It's a particular lineage of cories. I don't know my lineage of the cories. There are so many lineages now, especially with all the name changes they've done. I gave a talk just 2 weeks ago in San Jose, and Eric was in the audience, and I said, as far as I'm concerned, they're still all called cories. I don't know this hoplosoma, all this. They're all cories to me. And, I'm an old fashioned guy. They're cories. And so it's going to be a particular lineage of the cories that will have the toxins. Yes, these are, if you want to say they're, what's the,
You had purple ones before, didn't you?
Yeah, purple one. These are my reading glasses.
Oh, okay.
My regular glasses, the reading part doesn't work too well, so these are my Stanley Tucci glasses. Not Harry Potter. I don't like Harry Potter, but Stanley Tucci glasses. That's what I call them.
Now, what's the deal with the purple glasses? Is that just your favorite color, or is there
purple's my favorite color? Yeah, my computer's purple. I have I have a lot of purple ARCOF shirts, purple ARCOF sweatshirts. My phone is purple.
okay.
So I'm just a purple guy. I just like purple. Yeah.
Now, are you gonna do you currently, because I know before you moved you were looking to sell all your discus. Do you still have some? Or
no, I sold every fish I had when we moved.
So what are the fish that you want to keep now?
Well, I have over the last 2 years I have purchased 90 discus in Peru from the fishermen. Okay. So I'm not going to ship them all back, but there's supposedly 50 discus that are going to be part of the shipment. And I'm not sure if I'm going to ship them before we go in a couple of weeks or after. I was going to have them shipped last week, but the shipper wanted $1,500 even before I paid for the cargo fee.
Wow.
So yeah, he wanted way too much money for all the paperwork. And these were fish that we had collected, that I not collected, but that I had purchased myself off the fishermen. And that's just too much, for his work that he was going to do, which was bag the fish. And he wasn't going to bag the fish. Carlos and his son were going to help bag the fish. So, so we don't know who we're going to use right now.
Now, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, so yeah, it'll be just all the fish from Peru, primarily the tetras, some of the cories. I have 4 or 5 species of cories that are ready to ship, and some red pencil fish, and the Amaya and Sanipa red pencil fish that I bought from one of the fishermen who goes to that area. He actually used to work for the research center. He was, he's just a local fisherman that we actually helped when we were constructing everything, and some brand new tetra species that they're finding up in that same area. I have 10 of one particular type that I really like that I just wanted to bring in and see if I could breed them.
Mm-hmm. So I'm assuming there probably is, but what are some of the endemic fish that are just to the Iquitos area? None that are in the hobby?
Chameleon loricarids are endemic to that area. There's a chameleon loricarid that's in Colombia, but they're really not sure if it's the same species because you don't find them throughout the area. The woodcats, there are some woodcats that are just found in that area. Woodcats are some of my favorite catfish. There's a little tiny catfish that they call robocops.
Oh, okay.
I don't know why they call them robocops, but they're little mini spiny Raphael type catfish. They're get up to only about an inch long.
Give me a second, real quick.
Uh-oh. Overflowing water or anything? You guys can ask questions in the chat. I know some questions have come up, but I wasn't really paying attention to them. So ask me anything you want. I guess not. Oh, well. Oh, well. Let's see. On my wall, I used to be a betta breeder. So behind this shoulder right here, there are betta awards from the IBC. My pair of bettas were third place in the world.
Sorry about that.
It's okay. I was just yapping with people.
Yeah. How are you on your time? Because I didn't ask you. Well, you said you stayed up till 6 a.m, but how tired are you?
You know, Jorge, there is, I got so much to do in my life. So I told them to ask questions in the
Here you go.
in the comments. So yes, there is a large
question.
preservation area, the Pakia Samaya, that is very, very really large. It does stretch into the Rio Tigre. So Rio Tigre is the Alto Tigre is where the normal red pencilfish are called.
Oh, okay.
So what fish do we collect? Angelfish, cories, piranhas, 20 different tetras, bunch of cories, 3 or 4 cories that we catch all the time, all sorts of different catfish.
Now you said it's Dr. Thomas that's doing the research on
Yes.
the cories. What is
Yes.
he? Is he trying to figure out a way so that when they get shipped, they don't kill each other?
Probably ultimately, that's a question that he could try to answer, but they don't know what triggers. They know what triggers them, that when they're disturbed, but they don't know biochemically what triggers the toxins to be released. And that's what he's looking at now, is what biochemically causes the toxins to be released.
Oh, okay. I know before we went live, you were talking about going to do a talk. Is that something that you're doing more and more of now, or?
I'm actually doing less. Well, I'm doing more talks to aquarium societies, but less scientific talks, because the university would pay for my travel to scientific talks. Yeah. Now all the travel comes out of my own pocket. So I go to, I give a talk at scientific meetings every 2 or 3 years. So yes, I'm going to Singapore at the World Aquaculture Society meeting in June. And so I'll be spending time in Singapore. I'll be spending a few days in Thailand looking at fish, but I'll be spending 10 days or so in Cambodia visiting friends in Cambodia and collecting fish in Cambodia.
No, okay. So you're going to go collecting?
I'm after one particular fish in Cambodia, and that's a little dwarf gourami that I caught 10 years ago there.
There's a question here that says, in your opinion, should home hobbyists aim to buy tank bred or wild caught species, particularly those providing economic input to local populations?
Yeah, there is a lot of conflicting opinions. If you look at wild caught fish, they say about 50% of the fish die after capture when they get to the exporters. Another 50% die at the exporter's place. and then another percentage die during transport to the wholesalers. Then another percentage dies from the wholesalers to the fish stores. Because some of these fish, they don't acclimate them well enough. They drop them into water conditions that are going to be completely different than what the water conditions are found in at the exporter's place. And every step along the way, they're going through different types of waters. The problem with a lot of tank bred stuff is that, especially some of the tetras now, they're really inbred.
Yeah, they're weak.
And so you're not getting good, strong fish. Wild caught fish tend to be more expensive than tank bred fish as well.
Is that the reason why a lot of the neon tetras that we see at stores today are so weak? Is
there is a neon tetra disease that is, at times you get big outbreaks in Southeast Asia and Asia where a lot of the fish are being bred. You don't see it as much in wild caught fish. But, neon tetra is one fish in Peru that are getting harder and harder to find. Not because of over collecting per se, but it's because of habitat destruction. It took us 6 months this past year to find 500 neon tetras for the aquarium. That used to come in, weekly, 500 from the fishermen with no problems. But they're becoming more and more problematic because of habitat destruction.
Yeah. Now, are you going to be going to any of the fish events here stateside this year, or?
No, I wanted to go to the ACA convention, which is at the end of November. End of June, but we'll be
that's
in Peru
one in Kentucky, right?
Yeah, Kentucky, the Bash or whatever. I don't know what it's called. Yeah, I wanted to go there. I went this year. I went to the big OCA convention they have in November in Cleveland, Ohio, primarily because they awarded me a grant to work on some of the fish, but I just like going there. So most of it is going to speak to local clubs. I'll be in Phoenix, I believe, in November. I'll be at Saki in November, I think. October or November, I don't know. It's on my calendar right now. I just don't remember what it was.
Which club are you going to?
Saki.
That's going to be in November this year?
No, that's killing
just regular.
Oh. Yeah, the regular club. Yeah, the regular club.
The Southwest Aquatic Society.
Yeah.
SAS.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, do you know what day in November?
Give me 2 seconds. I'll get to my my calendar.
I'll make sure I ask for the day off and go up there.
Let's see. October or November, July, August, September, October. I'll be in Massey, St. Louis on the 15th of October. 31st of the 30th and 31st of October. I'll be in Phoenix.
Okay, October.
So
for Halloween.
October. It's either Halloweeny. It's either.
Oh, but you're doing the talk on the 31st, though, right?
I'm giving a talk on the 31st, but they have like a little get together on the 30th where they have club members come and you give informal stuff on the 30th on that Friday.
I'll probably ask for those 2 days off of that day and meet you up there.
No.
Don't go up there.
And then I'll be in Erie, Pennsylvania in November. Yeah,
okay.
That's a long ways away.
Yeah, that's a little bit far. Although I finally got out to the East Coast, so I don't know. I was telling Funk that I might, instead of going to Texas now, I might be going out to South Carolina a little bit more often. So
Why South Carolina?
that's where my son's going to be stationed.
Oh, okay. Okay.
He's going to Charleston. I think it's Charleston. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
So he probably goes up there end of this month, beginning of April. So he'll be up there. So, you know,
But how long will he be stationed there for?
at least 4 or 5 years.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
This last contract he signed up for required him a commitment of, I think it was 4 years. So I think that's where he's going. So
Okay.
yeah, we'll be going up there at least once a year for sure. So I'll get to go see a whole other fish community up in that area.
Yep. For sure. You'll see, you collect with more than just mollies and red horse minnows and, things of that sort.
I don't know. I'm very partial to the live bears. So I think mollies will always be a staple and some of the other live bears. Although there are, I got to admit, now that I saw some of the hybrid cichlids that Funk had, the colors on them are very impressive.
Yeah.
I've never been a one fish, one tank kind of guy. That's never been my appeal. I like seeing them in other people's aquariums, but I don't know. Yeah, and he keeps telling me you need to get like a mascot fish. I said, no, I don't.
Get with the fish with
the flower horn.
Yeah, flower horn, particularly with the big nuchal hump. Yeah,
I call that the Frankenstein fish.
Yeah. I've been watching lots of videos from Thailand fish markets, just because you mesmerize on how cheap the fish are there in JJ Market.
I saw the most horrible thing.
But some of those fish are just gorgeous. Some of the flower horns, they don't have the big old huge nuchal humps. They have a little small one that's normal for a lot of cichlids, but not some of these big old nuchal humps.
Yeah, the worst thing I've seen so far is this new discus that they're trying to promote called the rhinoceros discus.
Oh no!
Oh, it is. Imagine the shape of a discus, and then imagine like taking a bite out of the forehead area, and making like I saw that.
Yeah. That I've seen those in the past. They're those are really aberrant. But yeah, some of the. Like the Altum discus, they were the really high fins. No. These are. I'm sorry, those fish aren't supposed to be that way. In the wild, those things get eaten right away. Right away.
You got a question from one of the persons here. They're asking if you collect a lot of sailfin tetras.
Sailfin tetras, yeah. There's one particular stream that has sailfin tetras, but they're actually in water that is heavily tea stained and pH of 3. They're in really acidic waters there. Yep. Granuculus. Have you found any new Apistos or rivulus? We think we have a new rivulus species. It's not something that it appears to be different than everything else. It's more of a brown rivulus, but it takes a few years to go through the process to see if it's new. Now there's new Apistos that are coming from the Sanipa and Amaya regions that we have, but we didn't discover them. The fishermen did discover them. And if the planned boat trip revealed some new species, you never know.
It's hard to
just
tell.
Don't know. Yeah.
Just draw the luck.
Yeah.
Now, have you found any new species that might bear the Mazeroll name?
No. See, what you never do is if you name a fish, you never name it after yourself.
Oh, okay.
That is bad form. Some people have done it, but that is really bad form. So what you do is you give it to someone else to describe it. And you say, here, describe it with my name. Now there is a local tetra that people call Tetra Carlitos, after Carlos, because he's the one who actually found the tetra. It's almost like a glow light tetra that we
Okay.
find with the Pistogramma sunset apisto, Alto Tapajo. We find in the same area. I have a photo of I'm taking a picture of a female sunset apisto, and one of the tetracarlitos you can see swims by as I'm videotaping it. So yeah,
Ah.
yep,
So he might be able to get a tetra named after
yeah, yep.
a
So
Carlitos High.
Axelrod wasn't a fish biologist. Everybody thinks Dr. Axelrod was a fish biologist. Axelrod's PhD was in business administration.
So, but did he actually fish? Did he personally name fish after himself, or
no? People named fish after him because he would give them money for their expeditions.
Oh, okay.
In fact, he had to leave the country. He fled.
So he wouldn't go out and collect himself.
No. And most of the photos that he were in his books, he bought from other people. And Axelrod actually had to leave the country. He fled to Cuba because of tax evasion. All these, he had Stradivarius violins that were actually not true Stradivarius, even though, yeah. So he was
a fraud.
But we still, some people still have him as high regards in the fish industry. He wrote good books. He had nice color pictures.
Yeah, it's interesting how this hobby will attract people that will install monikers on themselves that don't correlate to them.
Yeah.
It's funny because, and I don't understand it, because nowadays it's not that hard to validate if somebody really has earned the doctor in front of them.
Oh yeah, it's very easy to check these days. Back then it was much harder. Anybody who has a PhD, especially within the last 20, 30 years, you can Google where they got their degree very easily. You can go to dissertation abstracts and type in a person's name and it'll bring up what their dissertation was. So it's not,
Alishon says that.
Yeah.
That Rosario had a lot of stories about good old Axelrod.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. It's funny. It's just, I don't know. It's I guess interesting, if you want to call it that, what people do to try to cement their legacy.
Well, look at some of the so-called experts on YouTube.
Oh, yeah.
that have, hundreds of thousands of followers. I'm not saying they give bad information, but a lot of them are saying they're somebody who they really aren't.
Well, and a lot of them haven't even gone out to their own local waterways and try to see what's in them.
Yeah, I guess I'm just jealous. That's all. Yeah. I don't make money off of YouTube.
Who does? I mean, there's not. Well, I guess there was a point where you could, but in today, I find it very difficult.
You have to. Nowadays you have to have hundreds of thousands of followers.
Yeah.
To make, you're not going to be able to make a living off of it like you could 10 years ago when those who got in on the bottom floor are the ones that, are the ones making money. I know, George. I just like fish too.
Yeah, but I guess it is what it is. But it's unfortunate that if people don't really take the time to research, I think as a consumer, there is a certain responsibility on yourself to make sure that that you're doing a little bit more research than just the information you're getting fed on social media.
Yep.
Because if you take it at face value, you're gonna find a lot of surprises along the way.
Yes, I knew Tyson Roberts. Tyson Roberts was a ichthyologist who named thousands of fish. He actually worked. I helped him in Iquitos one summer. Um, yeah, so there are a lot of people. The One of the problems with YouTube with so many fish people, there's more than one way to have an aquarium.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of different ways of doing an aquarium. Some are more right than others, but there's a lot of different ways, and people want to say my way is the only way. Well, you know,
Yeah.
my way, the way I have my aquariums may not be what people like. I like my Amazonian tanks have wood and leaves. That's it. No plants. Maybe some plants growing on the surface, but a lot of people don't like dark stained aquariums. I
Yeah.
like more things that look true to life, where other people Stephen P has some of the most beautiful tanks, with all his plants. I can't do that. I've never been able to grow plants very well in an aquarium. So I take the minimalist, approach to all these things. I wish I
Yeah.
could grow plants, but I don't want to invest in CO2, fertilizers, all that stuff. I I'm too lazy for that.
Yeah. Well, or that, or you just keep the basic stuff, the
Yeah,
the easy stuff, and then grow it out and play around with that. That's pretty much what I've done. I've had to adapt to the way that I keep my tanks because I don't run CO2, I don't run highlights,
yeah.
I don't run a lot of things. I've just kind of adapted it to what's been good for the plants. And but I don't.
Hmm.
You look at my aquariums, just Balisneria and
Yep.
the basic Rotalas and Luigi. Nothing. I don't have any views. I don't have. Matter of fact, this time of the year I can keep rhizome plants very well, but in the summer I cook them. It
Yeah.
just gets
Yeah.
too hot for where I'm at, especially because I
Yeah.
don't run an AC unit in the garage. If I were to climate control this place, it would open up my availability to different
Yeah.
plants out there. But I'm fine with that. I mean, I've still managed to pull it off what I wanted to do with what I have. It's just you become resourceful.
Yeah. Have you insulated your garage door?
No,
The
oh, the door,
bigger.
yeah, the
Okay.
door.
Okay.
It was, I didn't do it. It was already done,
Oh,
but
okay. Okay.
but it makes a big difference.
Oh, yeah.
It
Yeah.
it makes a
Yeah.
big difference. And then the construction here, oddly enough, is all cinder block. So
Oh,
uh,
really?
yeah, all the entire house. But a lot of the stuff here in Yuma is cinder block construction.
Hmm. Wonder
It's
why. I mean, it's not like you have hurricanes there. Cinder
Yeah, I
block's
don't
great
know.
for hurricanes. And in Florida, that's what they do. A lot of the houses is cinder block because of the
Yeah, because
hurricane.
everything in the valley is plywood and
Yeah.
studs,
Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
and not out here.
Exactly.
But I think some of the newer track homes they're building are going
Hmm.
well. It's quicker and faster. I mean, you can put up
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
house in a
Yeah.
matter of days when you do that.
Yeah.
So, well, Senor, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to
Oh, no
come on
problem.
here and
Anytime. Yep.
and chat it up. I'll
I'm
def
sorry I didn't wear my Mexicali fish
no
keeper shirt. I usually wear
no.
it, but I was lazy. I wore this shirt all day long. I said I'm not going to change.
Let me make sure there isn't any. If you guys have any other questions for Doc, if not, then we'll go ahead and wrap it up. Um, Hopefully, I didn't miss any other questions. More than likely, I did because I really bad at looking at the chat. I try, but if you guys have any questions before we get out of here, now's the time. Uh,
And feel free to email me anybody if any of you have any questions. I'll answer any question. Like I used to tell my students, there is never a stupid question. only stupid people asking questions. Just remember
That's usually all my questions.
that.
All right. I don't see any new questions popping up. I want to thank you guys for joining us tonight. Thank you so much for coming out and watching the live stream. Monday we're having a pretty interesting topic. It's going to be funk. And then we have 3 business owners. We're going to be talking to Dan from Consolidated Fish Farms. We're going to be talking to Louise from Elite Menagerie Habitats and Joe Perez from the Chlorophyll Corner. And one of the things we're going to be looking at is given the current global situation and what changes we could possibly be, or interruptions more than anything else, we might be seeing in the supply lines for the hobby.
Yep.
Are you guys seeing? You guys are not being affected by that yet, right? You know, routes
No.
being, yeah. You guys are
No,
anything coming out of South America?
No, I haven't talked to any of the exporters to see what's happening with the tariffs when they ship to America. I just don't know if Peru, if they're under a special high tariff. I would have found out if my fish were shipped to me, but I haven't heard anybody. And I've talked to Steve from the Wet Spot, and he hasn't indicated to me that tariffs have really impacted his fish imports yet. So,
yeah, what I did find interesting, and I don't know if you can probably so much for going away, right? Nolan from Nolan's Aquarium, because I reached out to a couple of the store owners that I know to get information for this.
Yeah.
And I asked him, he goes, it doesn't affect him so much because he's kind of like bringing a lot of fish from South America. Yeah. What he did mention, which I thought was really interesting, and I haven't heard anybody talk about this, is the fact that trying to get wild caught fish is becoming a little bit more difficult because of tribal conflicts. And I thought that was very interesting. I was like, whoa, I need to come back and revisit that with him because that's the first time I'm hearing of a conflict within the countries because of tribal situations where they're not allowing them to go in and fish. And I thought, oh, okay, that's new. So I don't know, maybe that's something that we'll definitely probably try to bring up and invite Nolan to talk a little bit more on that. And if I can find somebody else that's probably a little bit more knowledgeable on that, because that's the first time I'm hearing about it. I was curious if
if that's primarily from Africa.
He said it was in South America because he brings a lot of stuff from South America. Okay. So I don't know if it's in Brazil or that's where I'm assuming, because you still have a lot of tribal communities out there. So, but we'll see. Well, sir, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
I really appreciate it. And
no problem.
Hopefully you also had a good time. So
I had a great time. Always have a great time. Okay.
All right. You guys have a good night. We'll see you guys on Monday.